So for today, guys, we are discussing Ubisoft. Now, we're not the biggest fans of Ubisoft. We made that very clear. They're probably our least favourite publisher. And they've been in the firing line. And to be fair, it looks like they've crossed the line. Now, this is the story from Twitter. So Ubisoft is closing unused accounts, disabling access to purchase games, and the publisher claims that this is due to GDPR restrictions, which is all about basically, for those that don't know, it's all about making sure that your data, you can only hold it when it adds purpose to your business, when it has like a purpose to exist for you to hold that data. You can't have it in perpetuity, you can't have it in infinitum, as we like to say. So guys, following this news that Ubisoft are doing this and closing down these unused accounts, what do you think about it? Do you think this is something that's okay for them to do, or is this just way overstepping the mark? Phil, I'm going to come to you first.
Well, Davey, when I first read this article, of course, it's written in a way that, wants to fuel the fire. And it fuels the fire around what really actually grinds my gears. It's kind of that idea that all this digital content that we're buying, we don't have control over. And publishers and people that own platforms that host games can take that away at any time. And that really can get the mob fired up and angry about this. And I really was when I read this, although I'm not, as you mentioned at the top of the topic, we're not the biggest Ubisoft fans, but if I did have games in my account and they were threatening to be closed down and I was going to be losing my games, of course I'd be angry about all this. Definitely, it would outrage me. I'd be straight on Twitter to talk about all this.
100%. Spence, are you feeling very much the same way?
I mean, at first I thought it was just outrageous. I thought it's such a cheeky thing to do. Like, some people have bought so many games on Uplay. I myself own multiple games on Uplay. I don't use it though, so I thought that's fine. Even if my games get deleted, I was probably never going to play them again anyway. I mean, I'm a PlayStation player now. Wouldn't matter to me. The thing that irked me was that I saw someone reached out to Ubi, and it said that games you've bought on Steam, Ubisoft games, if you buy them on Steam, when you launch them, it opens Uplay. And you play the game through Uplay. So even games that you've bought on Steam, you would still no longer have access to, even if you didn't actually purchase it on their platform. And I was like, that one pisses me off. Uplay shouldn't be able to alter your purchases on a different platform. And that's where I was like, nah, because that's my Uno. That's my Assassin's Creed 3. That's my Rainbow Six Siege, which out of those, Uno is probably the one I care about. I don't really care about any others.
You can get that in card form, right?
I have it, mate. I have Uno Flip.
Oh, well, there we go.
And that's why I'm not that bothered. But if I was going to be bothered, drinking out with the boys over Discord, bit of Uno, that's just out the window, because Ubisoft have erased my copy of the game. So I thought about that, and I thought, yeah, it's outrageous for them to do this. And as much as I'm not a tweeter, I wouldn't tweet about something I'm angry about. It's not something I do. I could understand the fury.
Yeah, and I was very much the same. I saw this and it was immediately, right, topic of the show. This is horrendous. This is another punch down on Ubisoft. We're just going to go off on them. They're already a studio that are struggling financially. They're not being able to put out quality games. They haven't put out a quality game in a while. And here we are now, and they're going to be stripping people's accounts, and I was all fire and brimstone, and get the pitchforks out, lads. It's time to fucking go over there and kill these French guys, right? Until I did a little bit more digging. And I know that you guys are aware of this now as well, but it turns out you've all been fed a sack of lies. Because everything I've seen on Twitter for the last week and a half, even 2 weeks maybe, is just all about Ubisoft being bad, stripping people's access, taking games away. Well, actually, that's all totally lost. That is a total lie. Because you go onto their closure of inactive Ubisoft accounts on their website, and this is what the article says verbatim, okay? Inactive Ubisoft accounts with no PC purchases or active subscriptions tied to them may be closed in order to comply with data protection laws after long periods of inactivity. Accounts tied to an active Ubisoft account or an activated PC game, no matter where it was purchased, will not be eligible for deletion. So if you've bought a game on PC, you're fine. No matter how long it's been. So your copy of Uno, Spence, you could play that in 15 years, 20 years' time. You could just get that urge for that Uno and think, I'm going to fire it up. And they will not close your account down. It's only for those accounts, like I can think of for myself, for my Uplay, for example, because it's linked to my PlayStation 3, when I was playing lots of Assassin's Creed. I haven't really played Ubisoft games since then. So if I got an email through saying, we're going to close your account down in 30 days, it's not really the end of the world. What am I going to lose? Some wallpapers I earned from Assassin's Creed Black Flag 15 years ago that I could look at? Nothing really of any real substance. And I could just restart and do a brand new account. It wouldn't be the end of the world. Normally, we always say, with this smoke, there's fire. In this case, that is not happening. There's smoke, there ain't fire. That's someone just farting into the wind. And you're getting that backwash through the nostrils, boys. There is nothing going on here whatsoever. And it just begs the question, how easily things can be spun, how they can be misrepresented, to be able to rile up and to be able to get clicks. Because ultimately, a website like this, like the article that I originally got this from, was from VGC, who are a source that we use quite a lot for this show. And in this, they've done no due diligence. They've done nothing. Or if they have, they've chosen to willingly go against that to be able to portray something as a severe negative so that they can get people coming to their website and reading all about how they're going to get fucked out of their games. Now, guys, this is a major problem, as far as I see it. It's something that we see all the time across social media. Social media is really bad for this. People not being able to source things. People being able to actually convey facts and figures and have them in a totally different limelight, depending on the mediator that's come through. What do you think about this, guys, this entire situation? What's your reaction been after kind of learning this news and the truth behind this? Phil, I'll come across to you first.
I find it mad. I really do. And I don't think, we as a podcast, we're complete saints here, because I can imagine we've probably read out misinformation in the past and really gone for what the story's angle was, purely because we didn't do our due diligence. And I don't think a lot of people do. I think a lot of people will find the biggest headline, grasp onto that, and start putting their weight behind it to, as you said, farm those clicks, get those views, get those subscribers, which everyone now is going to subscribe to our YouTube, because I know our subscriber rate isn't the highest at the moment. I think 70% of people actually don't subscribe who watch our videos. So subscribe now. If we're not reporting misinformation, this is actually correct. We've actually researched this now. We've actually done the proper thing here, and we're telling you the right facts. So yeah, make sure you subscribe. But yeah, you're right. We see this all the time, and it is absolutely mad. And it's actually a good thing to actually realize this happens. And I think now, moving forward, we're on episode 72 of this podcast. I think this is going to make us a little bit more interested now in the background of the things that we read out. I think this is going to force us to do a little bit more research when we're announcing things that are happening, and not just read the biggest headline that we can just to include it in the show because we believe it's going to get a little bit more traffic. I think it's going to make everyone just, look at themselves a bit more, actually, especially us.
Very true. Spence, what are you thinking?
Sure. So I was very much fire and brimstone as well. I was ready to come in swinging, absolutely screaming at Ubisoft, someone we already aren't a fan of, and just doing this outrageous thing. I have a game. My account's not going anywhere. And every single headline has been saying, if you don't go on your Uplay account in 30 days, you'll lose your account. That's not even true itself. That's not true. If you haven't been on your account in 4 years, it's eligible for deletion if it also has no games or subscriptions. They just send you a reminder in the last 30 days. So even if you don't have any games and you for some reason still want Ubisoft to have your information, which really is doing you a privilege, deleting your information for you, then log back in. It's, again, not even hard. Sure, it's been 4 years, there's a forgotten password button. Just sign back in. It's not that deep. If you care about your account, which has no games, it's ridiculous. It has fully been spun the complete wrong way. Everyone is playing the villain, trying to just farm clicks with this. And Phil, I actually completely agree, where it's kind of changed our perspective on things. And I think we kind of, whenever we see some bad news now, Probably going to be like, is it? Is it bad news? Why is this happening? And it's weird it took this. The big point I want to make is just sometimes Twitter needs to shut the fuck up. Really needs to shut up. They just see a headline, that's all the information they take, and they spread it further. Word of mouth is huge, and no one does their due diligence. No one. I think we just need to be the ones that do. And as long as we do that, I'm happy. So I think it's fine. Just fuck Twitter off. Come to us. Subscribe. 5 stars.
You guys are totally bang on. I think this is a real wake-up call for us in particular. As somebody that does relay news, I know a lot of our show is just banter and talking bollocks for lots of it, but we do have an entire section of our show called Quick News. And with that, we're very reliant on Twitter, on IGN, on VGC, all these different news outlets who are putting their news through a filter. And whatever that filter is, it's going to be a way to maximize clicks, to get money for them, to get eyes on their stuff. I'm sure if somebody put out a contra to this article, say, actually, Ubisoft ain't doing too bad, nobody would give a fuck. No one would click on it, right? It wouldn't get any kind of traction whatsoever. So why would they bother doing that? Why would they bother looking into it? And we need to now just take a moment. And I think this is just a case for everyone on social media to just, whenever you read something, take a minute just to go 1 or 2 frames deeper, just to go just a little bit below the surface. If you've got the onion, to go beneath the skin and dive straight into the middle of that layer, right? Or if you've got a vagina, peel it back and go straight up there, right? Chuck it straight in all the way, yeah. Spread it open. You get the baby out of there, get that baby out, right? Straight and in the fucking mix on there, right? Yeah, fist straight up. Whatever the analogy is, the cake with the icing, whatever you want to do, if you want to be a little bit more family friendly here. The thing about it is, just take that moment, and for us, it's a case of going directly to the source. If we've got something like this, we've got a video game developer with this bad news bears all round, we'll just go on and look what they put out for their press release and where everyone else is getting this information from. Because 99% of the time, there's rational reasons. Now, there's times when there isn't, of course, and there is fire and brimstone required. And where that is, rightly so, will come down like a ton of bricks on them. But things like this, Ubisoft, for once, haven't done anything wrong. They're being totally normal, and I cannot believe how easily it was, when I've got a negative opinion on something anyway, to have the blindfold put on that simple. You know, where I see 3 tweets about it and think, yeah, that's true. And it's because I don't like them. If it was Sony doing it, I definitely would have gone onto the terms and looked at it straight away. I'd be like, I bet that isn't the case. Especially if like Xbox people had tweeted it out, I would have been like, right, well, I doubt this. But because I'm already in that negative perception on something, I'm already suckered in. And I'm in that mindset already. So it's just easy to trick me then at that point.
Certain companies just have that, don't they, in the video games industry? As soon as you hear anything about EA, you go, there we go, EA have done it again. Ubisoft are the same. I think Blizzard probably have got to that level after all the shenanigans that have gone on, but maybe we should go back and fact check them after all the reports that we've done on the podcast. But yeah, definitely, I think in the future now, we just need to dig a little deeper. I loved all those analogies. I'm not going to go for one myself, but doing due diligence on the background of these stories and kind of just understanding why people are writing them, you know, let's do that. I think that's the service that we should be providing moving forward with the podcast. I'm not saying it's a complete promise, but we're going to do our best now moving into our next 72 episodes for sure.
And so I suppose following that, guys, when it comes to video game news and the way things are done, I've been feeling for a long time that journalism in this industry is pretty much dead. That we're at a point whereby Kotaku just puts out hit piece after hit piece, and whenever you read them, there's no substance, there's no real integrity or journalistic integrity to anything they put out. It's all just opinion pieces which are very, very clickbaity and frankly bollocks in a lot of what they put out. So I know that Kotaku is just a no-go, But I find this is just very similar across the industry that we're in. And it's not like the news when you're looking at, like, you know, you go on BBC News, for example, and it's supposed to be impartial, but generally they lean more left-siding, I find, or they used to. Now they're going more right-sided. Whenever you pick up a paper, you know which angle, which lens it's going to be through. If it's the Sun, it's going to be right-wing led. If it's something like The Guardian, it's a little bit more left. And so you can kind of see the same story but spun in 3 different ways. Do you think that as journalists for video games, that we should demand better in terms of our coverage, that we should be able to see people having proper sources, that they should reach out to developers, that there should be this level where things are kind of fact-checked to a certain extent before they hit that publish button? Or do you think that era of video game journalism is dead, and we're in this point now where it's just a race for clicks? Where do you think we are in terms of getting our news?
I think we're definitely past that era. 100%. I think most people, their sources for information is either Twitter or YouTube. And most people have, rather than, say, an actual reviewer of a game, they have a YouTuber they like, and they'll watch them play an early build or them play the game. And they'll trust them more than an actual reviewer, especially now. For months, there's been controversy with reviewers playing games, and they always play on easy mode, or maybe only play an hour of the game, or they skip the cutscenes, or they play with accessibility options, or they just don't play the game. They're all just taking the easy way out, and it doesn't seem like there's a reason not to, because when they write it in a document, no one's going to know that, anything they've done. And with the journalism stuff, they're not going to want to talk about something that's not going to anger you, really. The issue is bad publicity is publicity, and at the minute, the internet, if something great comes out, no one's talking about it. No one's talking about it. If something horrible happens, it's a storm online. Absolute storm. It's always going to be spun in a negative point of view. Almost everything will. And journalism, I don't think it's something a lot of people should even really pay attention to anymore. If it's something you're keen for, dig into it yourself. Don't listen to someone else. If there's a new game coming out, look at the developers. Look at gameplay. Look at maybe reviews if you want, but try find a good source. Just dig around. Don't just look at one review and think, oh, that's the game. That's the game. Actually do your own due diligence for everything, and just fuck off with all this journalism bullshit, because it's all begging for attention. That's all of it is. And I don't think we're ever going to get back to the old ways.
And of course, we are begging for your attention, so I thank you very much for staying tuned to MPS We Trust. But for me, my point of view on this one is that who do you trust in this world full of baiting? You know, do you go to the streamers who've been paid, who are sponsored by a certain company, so they'll put them in a very, rose-tinted glasses kind of light? Do you go to the news outlets that are paid by companies, have agreements with companies? Who is truly objective in this world? I don't think anyone is. Everyone is in it for a reason. And I think you need to make that decision as a viewer, as a listener. You make that decision by your subscription or your eyes, your clicks. You back the person that pleases you ultimately. So if your views align with ours, thank you very much. If they don't, then there's other podcasts to be listening to. I think when it comes to news outlets, again, there is thousands of different websites that will report all different types of things about video games. You just have to find out what you agree with and what you want to stick with. And Twitter, I agree with Spencer. As much as I love Twitter, it's an echo chamber, and it is really funny to track things, how they change, because it's almost like Chinese whispers on Twitter, isn't it? Someone will say something, it'll get changed a little bit, it'll move to something else, and by the end of it, we're not even talking about the same topic. It's changed completely, man. It just... But that's the world we live in, isn't it? That's the world of social media. I think at the end of the day, you just got to choose who you agree with most and just stick with them and back them.
Really well said, guys. I totally agree with both of you. I think the way to do it is that you find individuals that your personal opinions vibe with. And it's up to that individual then to be able to prove really that they're on the level. So I think for us, when we've had a couple of games for free, like when I had Tormented Souls and I had, another game. I can't remember it now off the top of my head. I did a review for it.
Scars Above.
Scars Above. That's it. Thank you, Spence. And I was very quick to mention right out the gate, I was supplied this game for free. Here is my terms. This is what I wasn't allowed to say. This is what I was allowed to say. So that it frames the conversation. You know, at that point, I'm trying to be as transparent as I possibly can. And I think that anyone you follow, any YouTube reviewer or anything like that, it's up to them to really be able to disclose that stuff. And I think this is where we get into very muddy water when it comes to streamers and we've seen it countless times. We talked about this on the show loads, as you mentioned earlier, Phil, where they're shilling for like Exoprimal, or they're shilling for any of this absolute bullshit because they've been given a free bag, a free sticker, and a fridge magnet. And they're
What
quite
was that
happy
multiplayer? What was the multiplayer you guys played?
Yeah, it was X Defiant, mate.
There it is. And that's the thing. There's so many cases of this all across the internet. As we've been saying for this entire topic, just be careful. And all you can do is just try and not get suckered in. Try and make up your own mind, not follow the herd, not be a sheep, and just anything you consume, any media or any information, try and go that little bit deeper.